Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tea with B. We are back. How is everyone doing?
Great. Doing.
Pretty good. Just here, chilling, ready to talk.
Yes. Today we have Florence here, Miss Florence Taylor. Welcome to the gang. We have Jazzy Thomas, and and we also have Tamir Cousins Ali. Tam. All right, so let's get started. We're going to get right into this. So, where were you when you heard that Joe Biden was going to be president?
Okay, so
Was that
I am
it?
one of those rare breeds. I disconnected from all social media, with the exception of like going in to specific groups to promote my sewing and things like that. I didn't turn the phone on to any outlets. I pretty much watch TikTok. Huge fan. Like hours of it. And there were days that I was just like, I don't want to hear anything. And then my girlfriend sent me a text, and she was like, "How you feel about a yardie up in the White House?" And I was like, wait. And then I made a call, and she was just like, "Yeah." And then it just started like a storm of it. So I think it's what I think is interesting is all the different sides of my family and my ethnic background. Because you have like you have my cousins who are like, there's gonna be a yard in the White House. There's gonna be oxtails and roti. And then my dad calls me, and and he goes, "Florence," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "The Camilla woman?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Her chief of staff, she's Haitian." I was like, "What?" He was like, "There's going to be cremas, there's going to be lobby, there's going to be Zia rice. All the Haitians are coming to Washington, D.C. now. All of them. We're going to leave the Silver Springs. We're going to leave Virginia. We're going to be in the White House. We're going to see her. Everything." I was just like, right.
I
That
love
is
that.
that's all happening. That's because that's how we think, right? We know we got the plug in for everybody.
Okay.
Like, I was just like, really? And my dad's like, "Oh, no, no." She's like, four cousins related. I'm like,
Oh,
Florence, we Haitian. If you have a grandmother and come in, we all cousins. I was like, okay.
I
I was like,
love
I love
that.
it. So
I
yeah, that was the best. That was the best. That was so like, but as you know, we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop because people can't be accountable and cannot exit with respect and honor the process, the due process of the whole situation. It's like you go to a party and the 5-year-old's like, I like here. No, no, we got to go home because we're no longer, the people want to go to sleep. They don't want us here.
Mhm.
And they're like, "But I can't stay." And a tantrum. So, what a poor example of sportsmanship. What a poor example of respecting the process, respecting the voice of the people when it doesn't suit your needs, obviously. And how the opportunity was available where you can leave with some type of grace and you can help establish and assuage and soothe some of the egregious acts and the horrendous hurt that has rippled through entire communities of people. But that's too much to ask, you know.
Jazzy.
Me done.
You done? Me done? Mic drop.
What
How
about you?
was your experience on that day?
Well, I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, I think I'm like most people where I'm like, I will take Dora the Explorer in the White House over who is leaving. So just general excitement from being like the reign of terror is over for me. I, for the most part, I feel positive, yet that slight bit of apprehension, because a lot of Joe Biden's politics thus far, like who he's filling out his what's it called, his cabinet with and whatnot, seems not from a place of sincerity, but a little bit from a place of being like pandering, being like, oh, I support the gays now. I support the blacks now, like more than ever. You know, like look at my cabinet, look at all these people I'm choosing and whatnot. And it feels a bit too heavy-handed. Like it's like, all right, we get it, we get it. We know who you need to support you right now, and we're supporting you. We're behind you. You don't have to like. It's too much. It's too much. It feels like.
We don't need headshots. You know, and then they strategically put the black person in the middle of the of the poster.
Yes, like literally that is what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. It's like,
and I'm like, I do. While I appreciate the representation, when you do it too heavy-handed, it feels real forced. It's like you already won. You already got all the votes you need. We're already behind you. Let's make it seem correct, at least. Like you're doing a bad job of being too visible with what you're going for.
It seems performative versus actual advocacy.
Mm-hmm. Like for me personally, I think that change needs to happen over time. And when you just try to like jump into like a new status quo, you get unforeseen things happening. Like for instance, like if things do go south and we now have all these black people and women and people of other races in the White House, everyone's going to immediately be like, well, that was the problem. Look at his cabinet. Of course, like this and that happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I stand on it. I'm positive with that little bit of apprehension, just because I know what it's like. I know what could happen.
But that's all that we have. That's always been Black Americans' narratives in this country. That feeling of hope with caution.
And that's what I mean. That's why I know what it's like. I know what it's been like.
Jazzy.
That's what I got to say.
Uh-oh. Jazzy's frozen.
Oh
no. Oh.
Am I breaking up?
There we go.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I remember it was a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And at that point, it had gone on for several days. And I was just like tired of constantly checking my phone and constantly checking the news. And I had decided, okay, I'm not checking anything today. It's Saturday. They're not going to announce it on Saturday. So I was watching something on Netflix. Me and my partner were just like chilling, drinking coffee on a Saturday morning. And my brother texted me and he said, we won.
We won.
And I just was like, we won? Like, wait, what? And then so we turned on the news, and I remember learning that Pennsylvania was the state that came through, and feeling like for the first time like an actual sense of pride in this state. I was like, wow, like we really did that, because like Pennsylvania was red, like deep red, and we flipped it. So that was just an incredible feeling. And then we spent the rest of the day watching the news and waiting for them to speak. And we all sat in the living room and watched them on TV. And I just remember my partner and I kept looking at each other like, is this real? Like, is this actually happening right now? Like, kind of waiting for like something to explode or like something to go wrong, basically. Joe Biden went on TV and condemned white supremacy more than once.
Yes.
And that was just like such a uh like we could finally breathe.
Yeah.
Like to hear him speak in complete sentences with truth and facts,
Mm.
not just his opinions on whatever nonsense the orange man will say. Um, but yeah, I, like Tamir, am still very cautious.
Yes.
And you know, it was a crazy process, and still is, and probably will be going forward. But on that day specifically, I felt that I needed to take that time to actually celebrate and be happy about it. And I saw a lot of posts that were like, well, he's still an old white man and she's still a cop. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not Donald Trump. And that was our goal, was to get him out of office, and we succeeded. So I'm going to celebrate that, and I'm going to be happy about that. I'm going to take that win, and then when he gets inaugurated, we can get back to work. But after the 4 years that we've had, like, we need something to celebrate. We do.
We do. 100%. 100%. I am on board with everything like everyone said. I was glued to the television entire, what was it? I think 9 days. Was it 9 days?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
I think
I
so.
like I couldn't watch anything else but CNN. I was like with I was with what's his name now? Oh, I'm forgetting the guy with the khaki pants and watching Wolf and Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually there like the moment where they were like getting in. They got in like the extra dump of Pennsylvania votes, and I was like, oh wait, I
Oh,
think
Bill.
if that happens, I think we're gonna I think we won. I think we won. I think we got this. I think this is gonna happen. And they had the projection thing that was coming up, and I was like, oh, we won, we won, we won. And it happened. We celebrated, and then had some booze later that night. It was able to like unwind. It was just such a weight, and it's just such a you never realize like how good you have it until you lose something. You know, Barack Obama, but also at the same time, um, this was different because I do also feel like our community, the Black community, we were all napping during his era, and just because there was a Black man in leadership at that moment did not mean that racism doesn't still exist. You know, it doesn't mean that Black men were still being shot, Black women were still being shot. It didn't, you know. So it was almost like a celebration, but then the next day it's like, okay, now the real work begins. And now we have to hold these people accountable too, who are going to be inaugurating, Kamala included, because they work for us. We have to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
They work for us. Their job is to serve us. So we really have to, you know, stay activated and, you know, stay woke. If you go to sleep, sleep with one eye open. Yeah.
And it and the thing with it is it 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 should actually fuel it. I mean, the last 4 years, because obviously I'm much older than I think all three of y'all ages combined, or at least two.
Oh.
Uh, but it's, I still remember when I turned 18. I had just got into college. It was my very first election. um, at 18, I had an opportunity to vote, and I was like, this is just dope. And I was so excited. And my excitement never dwindled throughout the whole process. I guess just being a first generation American and knowing from where my parents came from that democracy was not always something that they had the opportunity of being able to embrace, I embraced it wholeheartedly. And I would be part of the census, and I would be part of voter registration. So you rewind 4 or 5 years ago when everything was when everything was happening, and I saw the campaigning, and I saw people taking it almost like it was a joke. And I knew, and I still remember my father said, there's no way they are going to allow and let us forget that we let a black man run this country for 8 years, and they're going to be silent about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a piece afterwards, and it's like, what happened is that we allowed him to poke the bear of racism, of misogyny, of Zionism, ableism, sexism, and that bear said, "Oh, I have 3 other little bears with me, and oh look, there's more bears over there." And what I think, it wasn't so much who was at the head of our government. It was knowing that you had people that were next to you that were aligned with that mentality and that thinking. And while I have some amazing people on paper who I know are loving and kind, but them standing with him does something to me, because it's like they want to take it apart, like almost like, when they do with the Bible, they like pick chapter and verse. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. Well, I like this, but I don't like this about him. I like this, I don't like this about him." For me, it's like, it's that self-hatred and that self-love. Like I'm now embracing loving all my parts, because I need to love the entire sum of me. So I can't align myself and say, well, yes, such and such is a good person, but they don't care about me. And I'm fine with that. And I'm fine in just saying, I loved you once, and I can move on from it. But that was what was so scary, is like watching people trying to justify the things that he said. And this election, the fact that it was this close is almost galling.
Yeah.
The numbers were more for white women voting for him,
Yeah.
more for black men voting for him, who I want to go with and say that they probably were married to those same white women.
And the tea.
Bridget said, "No, sir. No. No, Kareem. You know what no. Because Dad, Chad, and Todd, and all of them we cannot sit at dinner and eat no old green bean casserole, and you sitting there thinking that you gonna vote blue. I don't think so, Kareem. No. Hit that red button, sir." I'm like, no. And I say this, and I have told my children this, and I don't care what anybody says. The fragility of putting and upholding white womanhood in this country has had black men hung, beaten, tarred, scarred, our black bodies, women, experimented with, victimized, spiritually, physically, and mentally raped, because they uphold this amazing Mona Lisa Madonna ideal of what the white woman is. I love white women, the ones that are in my life that are here for me, but they needed to stand up for us. They needed to come through. We sacrificed over and over again. That suffrage movement, we had a choice in the 60s between civil rights, them or us. And we said, well, maybe if we stand with, Susan B. Anthony, all of them, Ida B. Wells must be like, oh, I wish I wouldn't. I should have just cut her with a rolling pin in the head, knocked her out. Because we sacrificed over and over again, and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to be uncomfortable to make you comfortable. You don't like it? Guess what? Hit the door.
Preach.
Go off.
You sound like my son. Every time I go through these tangents, he's in the background. Go off. Yes. Oh, that's he's like, yeah, sell it. And I was like, I'm happy, and I'm go lucky, and I'm very positive. but I am very watchful and I'm very conscious of everything people say and do not say. Because it's, right now what's happening is it's quiet. But that's when they all assimilate. That's when you need to be mindful of that quiet. That quiet is thunderous.
I
Like, why are
think
they so silent for?
that's one thing that I feel like a lot of my white people in my life don't understand, like exactly what you just said, where it's like when it's quiet, that's when I'm like listening the most. You know what I mean? Or it's like a lot more to do with what's not being said around me
Right.
than what's being said to me, and being
Mm-hmm.
aware of the difference.
Mm-hmm.
My mother would always say, she would say, God whispers, but the devil shouts. And when the devil ain't got nothing to say, that means he's assembling and getting things ready. I would be like, it's cuter in French, but with her heavy accent. But I'm just, we have to be accountable for ourselves. We have to be we have Public Enemy said, if PE, Public Enemy, Boogie Down Productions, the revolution is not going to be televised. We need to really get it together. We need to say to each other, this colorism, this imperialistic way of thinking of how they broke us down, within the different, from that transatlantic travel, like that's purposeful. Because if they had kept us all in one place, there's no way things would be going the way they are. They are, like, I would see people saying, "Well, Kamala, like, oh, what? Why does she have to say she's like Jamaican? Does that make her American?" I'm like, I'm sorry, you ignorant fools. Like, what do you think Jamaica is? Like, when you're sitting there at the resorts and you're getting your hair braided and drinking rum punch and having conch, are you paying attention to who's serving you? Black servers are serving you. So yes, Jamaicans, we're black. We're black. We have Irish. We have Indian in us, because when they have to try to leave their imperialistic countries, they want to go to the islands first. I don't know for what. Maybe they need some food and spices. And let's talk about that. America traveled. All these Europeans traveled to find spices, and yet none of their food got spices. No one could cook. Glands.
Oh,
What were they traveling for? Where were they going? What?
oh my!
Tamir's dead.
I gotta go.
I gotta go.
I'm astounded where it's everybody wants to just. I understand that we want to pause and we want to just be let out some air, but you know what? There are many of us that don't have the opportunity to breathe. Eric Garner. So he can't breathe. He got no air. So let's breathe for him and let's be mindful. Let's take notes. We vote on a local level, vote how we need to be active in a local level, because people are scared to go out. I was out there like Sister Soldier, making sure that people were voting. Like, they tried to turn me away. I have my voter registration was directly across the street from my house. No, when I say directly across the street, I put on my nightshirt, a coat, and I crossed the street and I went over there, and they told me, my husband and I, here's what's interesting, 2 different lines we went to. He got to vote. That man that took my information, because our old address was still on there, he's like, you have to go somewhere else. And I said, oh, do I? No, because I don't have to do nothing. But what you do have to do is you're going to have this as a contested ballot right here, and you're going to take this here paper that I'm giving you, and because I'm across the street, and I will watch you all day, sir. I will sit on my porch, and I will watch you. And I watch people going in, and anybody that came out looking dejected, I with an oatmeal cookie right on my roof, out on my balcony, I was like, hey, you okay? They're like, no, we're good. I'm like, okay. If anybody needed an interpreter, I went right downstairs to my Spanish neighbor. I was like, let's go. I said, habla español, let's go. We're going to translate. We're going to help, because We can't be silenced. And this is, we have to be vigilant. We have to be, we have to be apostles for each other. We can't be silent anymore. We have to be, something's not going right. You hold them accountable. I'm at the position now that I don't want to hear about the problem. I want a resolution. Don't whine to me about what the problem is. What are we going to do about the problem? You don't have a suggestion? All right, then leave. That's it.
Go off. Go off.